Only got a few days to see as much as possible in Sydney, Australia? Hi, I'm Annie, and in this video, I'm going to show you the 16 best things to do in Sydney in only 72 hours, including everything from its world-famous landmarks to its amazing beaches, and where to go, what to see and do, where to hang out, and how to get around. And if you're staying longer, stick around to the end because I'm also going to tell you about more amazing experiences you're not going to want to miss. And check out the link in the description to download my action-packed 3-day itinerary for free. So, you ready? Let's go! For our first day in Sydney, we're going to enjoy a complete tour of the Sydney Harbour area and check off most, if not all, of the top attractions, including the Opera House, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and the Rock. The best place to start is in Circular Quay, and if you only visited one area in Sydney, this is where I would send you. The Quay is the main transport hub of Sydney Harbour, and it's here that we're going to find two of Australia's most famous landmarks, the Sydney Opera House and Sydney Harbour Bridge. Wander around the Quay, take a selfie for Insta in front of these famous structures, and soak in the incredible atmosphere of the city. There's probably no place more famous in Sydney than the Opera House. It draws millions of visitors every year and is known for its distinct sail-like structure, which is an incredible feat of architecture and engineering. Taking a guided tour of the Opera House is one of the most popular things to do. Being a busy transport hub, you'll also find many outdoor cafes and restaurants lining the harbour, so if you skipped breakfast, you can grab a quick bite here. Next, we're going to check out the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge, and there's a few options here. If you want the experience of a lifetime, you can join an organised Sydney Harbour Bridge climb. But don't just rock up expecting to tick this off your list, it's very popular, so you're gonna need to book in advance. But a sunrise or sunset bridge climb would be magical. If you're not a fan of heights, then another great option is to take a ferry across from Circular Quay to Milsons Point and take the walk back across the bridge's pedestrian path, where you can take in the panoramic views of the harbour below. By the way, the wharf at Milsons Point is also by the entrance to Sydney's iconic Luna Park amusement park, which you might also want to check out. At the entrance to the park, you can also get an incredible view of the bridge, the Opera House and the Sydney skyline, and it's a great spot for a sunset photo of the city. Another great spot to visit on the bridge is the South Pylon Lookout, where you get more breathtaking panoramic views of Sydney and the harbour without the time and money spent doing the bridge climb. This lookout is one of the most iconic views of Sydney, and you can also learn about the history and construction of the bridge. You can also visit Dawes Point, a small reserve that sits directly under the bridge's South Pylon, and it's another place to get great views across the harbour to the Opera House. Head back over to Circular Quay to grab some lunch overlooking the waterfront. There's plenty of options to choose from. Next, we're going to head over to the historic Rocks District, which is situated right between Circular Quay and Sydney Harbour Bridge. This colonial neighbourhood of pubs, shops and weekend markets is the perfect place to spend an afternoon wandering around the cobblestone street. Pop into the Rocks Discovery Museum and spend some time learning more about the history of the area. Or if you're feeling thirsty, check out some of the many pubs and bars, including Sydney's oldest pub, the Fortune of War, or the Glenmore, which has an awesome rooftop terrace with views over Sydney Harbour. If you have more time and love exploring on a bike, you can join one of the bike tours that take you through Circular Quay, the Rocks and the Botanic Gardens. These areas are the best of Sydney, and you can see everything in a couple of hours by bike. I'll leave a link to more information in the description. It's been a busy first day, so now it's time to put your feet up for a bit. I'd suggest either staying in the Rocks or taking the short walk back to Circular Quay for sunset drinks and a bite to eat from some of the world's best waterfront dining locations. There's still plenty more amazing places coming up to show you, but if you're dreaming about all the places in the world you want to see, interested in discovering new places and watching videos like this, and this, then why not subscribe and leave me a comment about your dream travel destinations? If you loved spending time in the harbour area yesterday, then today I've got plenty more treats in store for you, because Sydney is way more than just the bridge and the Opera House. Today we're going to explore some of the best places around the central business district, visit some of the nearby parks and also get a bird's eye view of the city. We're going to start the day in the Royal Botanic Gardens, a beautiful park found at the eastern edge of Circular Quay. Take a walk around the gardens to admire the many different types of plants and city views. You can also take a free self-guided walking tour. And for another amazing view of the Opera House and Sydney Harbour Bridge, you're going to want to head to Mrs. Macquarie's Chair, a viewpoint that's located in the Royal Botanic Gardens on a peninsula that juts out into the harbour. If you're into art, the Art Gallery of New South Wales is just a short walk away. It's free to go in, and it's one of Australia's largest art museums with extensive collections of Australian, Aboriginal, European, Asian and contemporary art. Another interesting place to see is St Mary's Cathedral, the largest cathedral in Sydney, and it's said to be the birthplace of Catholicism in Australia. It's just a short walk from the art gallery and is located on the outskirts of Hyde Park, the oldest public park in Australia. Explore the cathedral or take a stroll past the Archibald Memorial Fountain. Hyde Park makes a great spot for a picnic lunch today, and there's plenty of delis and bakeries to choose from in the area. Now it's time to get a bird's eye view of Sydney. The Sydney Tower is the tallest structure in Sydney and the second tallest observation tower in the Southern Hemisphere. At over 300 metres tall, the Sydney Tower's observation deck offers the ultimate 360-degree view of the city. If you're feeling adventurous, you can walk outside on the skywalk above the observation deck. The skywalk adventure is filled with amazing views, great photo opportunities, and a couple of glass floors to remind you just how high up you truly are. You're gonna need tickets for both of these, so best to book in advance. Once we get our feet firmly back on the ground, we're gonna head over to George Street and the historic Queen Victoria building, one of the best places to spend an afternoon shopping in Sydney. The QVB is one of the largest Victorian-era buildings in Sydney, which opened in 1898 to commemorate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. I love its Gothic-style architecture and stained glass windows. Inside, you'll find everything from chain stores to art galleries, boutique shops and restaurants, and it's one of Sydney's most iconic historic buildings. And if you've still got some time to spare, check out some of the other nearby shopping areas like the Strand, Pitt Street and Market Street. We're gonna finish day 2 in Darling Harbour, an area that's full of waterfront restaurants, culture and entertainment. Here you'll also find the Australian National Maritime Museum, the Sydney Aquarium and Zoo, and several large venues dedicated for concerts. As it's less popular with first-time tourists, you'll find fewer crowds here than at Sydney Harbour. While you're here, make sure to cross over the Pyrmont Bridge and enjoy views of the Sydney skyline. Darling Harbour is surrounded by plenty of great restaurants and bars to cap off your second day in Sydney, from high-end dining like Sokyo, one of Sydney's top Japanese restaurants, to waterfront sports bars like the Sporting Globe. Whatever takes your fancy, relax and soak in the atmosphere of this beautiful and much less touristy part of Sydney. And if you happen to be here on a Saturday night, check out the amazing fireworks display. Day 3 is going to be much more relaxing, and if you love the beach, then you're going to have a great time today. We're going to start with a coast walk after breakfast from Quay to Bondi Beach. Start by catching a bus over to Quay Beach, one of the most popular in Sydney. It's surrounded by a beautiful suburb, full of great cafes and places like the Quay Courtyard where you can get a delicious breakfast. The Quay to Bondi Coastal Walk is a 4-mile walk along Sydney's eastern shores, passing by some of the most iconic beaches in Sydney, as well as a collection of local bays, beaches and parks. It's a great way to start the morning and enjoy the ocean breeze and sun. It takes a couple of hours to walk, and there's plenty to stop and see on the way. Some of the main places, to name just a few, include Giles Baths, Gordon's Bay, which is great for snorkeling, the amazing surfing spots at Bronte Beach and Tamarama Beach, and Mackenzie Point Lookout, which has fantastic views over Bondi Beach. Once you get to Bondi, you're also going to find the famous Bondi icebergs, Sydney's iconic ocean pool, and of course, the amazing surf beach. A great place for lunch here is the bistro at the Bondi Icebergs, which has great food and the best views over Bondi Beach, where you can enjoy a cocktail in the sun and watch the surfers. So for your last afternoon, you have some choices to make. Bondi Beach is consistently rated as one of the most popular beaches in the world. And you can choose to spend the afternoon here, take a walk along the beach, sunbathe, or why not learn how to surf? Let's Go Surfing is one of the best surf schools in Australia. The staff are amazing and super friendly. You can rent boards and book a lesson, whether you're a first-timer or experienced surfer. Check out the link in the description for more information. If surfing's not for you, then another option is to head over to Watson's Bay for another amazing coastal walk. Jump on the bus to Robinson Park and make a quick detour to the Gap Lookout. Climb the steps for a fantastic view back across the city. Head around to Camp Cove Beach for some swimming and sunbathing, or take the beautiful 4-kilometer out and back coastal walk to the Hornby Lighthouse. And if you come between May and October, you might even be lucky enough to see migrating humpback whales from the cliff tops. But for me, you can't visit one of the best harbour cities in the world and not get out on the water. A great and cheap way to experience Sydney Harbour with stunning views of the city skyline, Opera House, Harbour Bridge, and Botanic Gardens is to catch the ferry from Circular Quay to Manly. In Manly, walk down the palm tree-lined Corso, hit the promenade on the beach for ice cream, walk around to picturesque Shelley Beach, which is a great spot for snorkeling, and you can even join a guided snorkeling tour if you have time. Or grab a cold beer at Manly Wharf Hotel. Time your return ferry trip back to the quay to coincide with the sunset behind the Harbour Bridge. Depending on where you end your day, you're going to want to make your last evening in Sydney a special one. If you finished your day in Manly, there are plenty of bars and cool restaurants here. Enjoy sunset drinks at the wharf, craft beers at the Four Pines, or dinner at one of the nearby restaurants. Or if you headed back to Circular Quay already, there's plenty of choice for all budgets and tastes. From fine dining near the Opera House, to everything from Australian to Mexican and Italian in the Rocks area. And of course, not forgetting Chinatown. Another area to finish off your final day is Barangaroo, nestled in between the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Darling Harbour. You'll find plenty of choice, including the amazing-looking Barangaroo House, set right on the waterfront, with an incredible rooftop bar. There's a huge amount to see and do in Sydney in just 72 hours, but if you have a bit more time, there's also plenty of options for tours and day trips. In the city, sightseeing cruises of Sydney Harbour or guided tours of the Opera House are popular, or the amazing Sydney Bridge climb that I already mentioned. From mid-May, humpback whales begin passing Sydney on their northern migration from Antarctic waters. There's plenty of viewpoints along the coastline, or you can join a whale-watching cruise. Further afield, you can also visit Royal National Park, the second oldest national park in the world, where you'll get to see coastal cliffs, secluded beaches, and the amazing Karakoram Falls. Or take a trip out to the world-famous Blue Mountains, with its incredible mountain ranges, beautiful hikes, and hidden waterfalls. Some of the most iconic spots are Echo Point Lookout, the Three Sisters rock formations, and Wentworth Falls. You can find details about all these and all the other places I've mentioned in this video in my free 3-day Sydney guide, which you're gonna find in the description. And if you want to know about more amazing places you should visit in Australia, you're gonna want to check out this video next. With that said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment about your favourite spots in Sydney. And I'll see you next time.